looks like this incident occurred on or about November 13th. And that they're saying that the Trey is observed to pass by the mother and the child with a gun, advance the father, law enforcement is contacted, a boyfriend is arrested for assault with deadly weapon, parents and their significant plausible, real, and significant danger. So, what is the status of Trey's case?
I don't know.
Know if he's still pending
You're cutting
a
out.
charge? Do you know if the charge is still pending?
I believe so, and I'm not sure exactly.
Okay. Are you concerned about his charge?
No, I'm not.
Why not?
Because I believe that Brooks instigated the situation. He came where he was not supposed to be with the no contact order in place, and Trey was not sure why he would come there, and therefore he felt like he had to make sure that we were protected, that Madison was going to be safe, because we're not sure why he came in the first place.
You realize that he didn't even cross the threshold of the business. He was all the way out in the parking lot next to his car.
Yes, but when we're inside an enclosed area and we have somebody as Mr. Johnson with such a reckless and violent past, we were not sure what, he's very unpredictable. We were not sure what was going on. We did not know if he was standing outside the door.
Okay, but you're right in the middle of Sahara. It's not a remote location. I mean, it's in the middle of a very metropolitan business and retail area, correct?
Yes, ma'am. Crimes and violence take place in public all the time.
Okay, but, I mean, he didn't have any contact with you. He wasn't even physically near you.
He did call the shop, and he was very aggressive and angry, and I asked him to call the police and do a welfare check, and he refused. So...
But you realize that there wasn't a TPO in place or anything. There wasn't a formal protective order. There was just a temporary order at a hearing where the judge mentioned, don't have contact with each other, the two of you.
To my knowledge, it was a do not go near each other, and it was firm. And I believe that it was known to both parties, myself and Mr. Johnson, that we were not to go near each other. Mr. Johnson was instigating a situation because we had court 2 days later.
You realize that you did not comply with the orders, and he did not see his child, who was basically living in a tattoo shop.
That's a very wrong statement.
Is it not true that she was there from the morning time until midnight daily?
No.
Any days?
She's there sometimes, yes, and she has a very good time there, and she's well taken care of, and she's loved, and she gets a lot of attention. Mr. Johnson was not supposed to be there.
Okay, but you agree with me that he had no contact and no idea how his daughter was doing because you were withholding the child in violation of the orders for months.
I agree with you, and I also know that Mr. Johnson should have called 311 and done a welfare check, as I have done many times.
Okay, but you just admitted that you don't have very much experience with custody cases, and you justified your behavior saying that you're inexperienced and didn't know what to do, and you'd agree with me that at the time Brooks did not have an attorney, and he was outside and nowhere near the inside of the business, and there was no don't get near each other orders.
Yes, there was.
No, there was a direct no contact, don't contact each other.
No.
Okay. We don't need to argue about it. That's fine. That's your answer.
Well, let's look at the order. I'd
Yeah.
like to see it. Which order are you talking about, Ms. Cole?
It was long before I came on. It just says the party shall have no contact. It's honestly, that's all it says.
And which order and when was it issued?
I believe it was back in like April or way beginning of the case when this church was first in court.
That would have been April of 2091.
Yeah, I can pull it up and see. I have it right here. I have my file right here.
To say Mr. Johnson wasn't aware either that 311 was the correct move for him to make is completely false, since I had told him that multiple times an hour before he decided to bombard us at the tattoo shop.
But Brooks Johnson didn't get arrested that day. Trey did, right? Brooks didn't have a gun. Trey had the gun.
Yes,
right?
Of course, yes. Trey was making sure that Madison and I were going to be safe.
And he was directly pointing the gun at Brooks.
I'm not sure what his actions were when he was outside.
Well, you've seen the video and the photos, haven't you?
There's no video of him outside.
Yeah, actually there is.
And to my knowledge as well, Mr. Johnson was instigating this, and he continually was holding his phone in a position to make it seem as if he had a gun in his hand. And that is something that I was told by, multiple witnesses.
Okay, so we'll get to that in a moment. All right, Judge, it's the order from the, it's been filed on August 18th of 2021. It's the order from the April 12th hearing. On page 3, line 24.
Page 3, line 24. A no contact order is issued for both parties. A behavior order is issued for both parties.
That's all it says.
Okay. Thank you.
Give me one moment. We are on the subject. Turn to Exhibit E.
Exhibit E.
You said Exhibit E?
Yes. Seen these photos before?
E is not admitted yet. Just saying.
Okay. Jessica, have you seen these photos before?
If these are the ones that I saw submitted to court, then yes.
Okay, so starting with the first photo, who is this a photograph of?
Of myself and Trey Hansen.
And when was this photo taken?
When Cody would not leave the shop and I was asking her to leave.
Okay, does this refresh your recollection of there being photographs of what happened the day that you're alleging Brooks was at the shop?
Yeah, and there's actually surveillance video, which I'm hoping that the judge is going to be able to watch of this.
Okay, so move to admit Exhibit E.
Your Honor, she only went through one photograph. And
I asked her, are these photographs from the incident on November 10th? And she said yes.
my objection. I get to make it, don't I?
Yes, let him speak, Ms. Cole.
In order to lay a foundation to introduce a photograph, you have to ask the witness if it is a true and accurate depiction of what occurred on that date and have them describe it. She's had her describe one, and Ms. Church has already testified that she doesn't know what happened outside, which would be the third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth photograph. So I don't believe there's a foundation for the 8 photographs after the first 2.
Okay,
You
Ms.
can
Cole.
just say lax. You can just say lax foundation if you want. I would be happy to provide some more foundation if the court wants to, but I'm not. Well, if I may.
Go ahead.
Okay. So, do you recognize the first photo? And
Yes,
if
I
so,
recognize. I'm sorry.
tell me what it is if you do.
A photo of myself and Trey Hansen. Madison's in the background, and it's at his tattoo shop.
For when this photograph was taken.
The day that Brooks and Cody came.
Okay. And is this an accurate representation of that evening, if you remember?
Yes.
This video or this photo has not been altered.
Yes.
Okay.
We were standing in this position at one point.
The second photograph What does this show?
It shows me in Madison.
Okay, and is this also from that same evening, November 10th?
Yes.
Is this the inside of the studio?
Mm-hmm.
Is that yes?
Okay.
I'm sorry, yes.
Okay.
Is that a true and correct depiction of what happened that day?
Yes, ma'am.
What about the next photo? And is this?
Like I said, I do not know what happened outside. I'm not aware of any of the events that went on outside.
Okay, well, you just testified that your boyfriend pointed a gun at Brooks, so you know that happened, right?
You said, "Have I seen the photos of this happening?" And I said yes. And I also said I don't know what happened because I was not outside.
Okay, so you've just heard about what happened. You didn't see it.
I was not there. No, I can't say I know firsthand.
All right. All right. So, are you concerned that I'm sorry. I don't mean to be assume. Assume that you, Trey, is your significant other,
Yes.
and you're not concerned that he is pending a felony charge.
Concerned in what way?
Does it concern you in any way that your boyfriend is pending a felony charge for assault with a deadly weapon?
No, it does not.
Okay. Why not?
Because I think that with the evidence that Brooks has, threatened and actually told Trey Hansen, and we have documentation of him saying that he was going to blow his head off and numerous other threats, combined with the fact that he was not supposed to be at the location this day, I feel like it's evident that he was instigating a situation, and Trey had the natural instinct to make sure that we were protected based upon his threats in the past from Brooks.
But you just said that Brooks should have just had the police check on your daughter. Why didn't you just call the police?
I did.
Okay, then
ma'am.
why do you need Trey to engage in self-help if you have the police on call?
Well, because Cody and Brooks were already on the grounds. The police were not there, and the police were going to take, some time to come.
So you felt that he was justified even though law enforcement does not and arrested him?
Absolutely, 100%.
Okay. And you're not concerned about him getting a felony for this?
No. He did what's right.
How many times has Trey been charged with a felony?
I have no idea.
Do you have any idea of any of the times
None.
he's been charged
I
with
have no
felonies?
idea.
How does he know Mr. Schoenfeld, if he does?
I don't know.
How did you find your attorney?
Trey suggested him.
And were you aware at the time that Mr. Schoenfeld primarily practices in criminal defense?
Objection assumes facts, not evidence.
I said, do you know?
I don't know. I'm not aware of his, his expertise or what fields he's in. No. I just know he's a great attorney.
Okay, and do you know how your significant other knows Mr. Schoenfeld?
I do not.
You don't know if he's been Trey's attorney before?
I don't know the specifics. I just know that they know each other and they have for a long period of time.
Who's representing Trey on his felony charges?
Mr. Schoenfeld.
So you're aware that he's Trey's attorney?
Yes, ma'am.
How much does Trey make per year?
I'm not sure of the exact amount. I think that according to one CPS investigation, I think he said something around $300,000 a year.
Okay. And so Trey makes $300,000 and you are in the tattoo shop every day. What are you doing there?
I'm not in the tattoo shop every day, ma'am.
Okay. I know you said you've been spending a lot of time at home lately.
Yes.
Have you been in the tattoo shop before? I mean, clearly
Of course,
you were there
yes.
the night.
Yes, ma'am.
What do you typically do there?
I hang out, I chat, I talk to people, I answer the phones. It's absolutely my choice to be there.
Okay. You take payments from people?
Um, Sometimes, yeah, I will help them with the credit card machine and stuff, yeah.
Do you assist the tattoo artists in any way?
Well, typically it's just Trey there. Sometimes we have other artists there, but I just kind of help out. And I come
Okay.
and go as I want.
Right? And have you support yourself?
I'm sorry?
How do you support yourself?
Trey handles all of the finances.
Okay. Does Trey issue you a paycheck?
No, ma'am.
All right. When you say he handles the finances, what does he? What? Describe to me what he does.
So, like, as far as paying my phone bill, if there's something that Madison or I need, it just comes from him.
So Trey pays the mortgage payment, the electric bill, gas bill, food, the sewer garbage, HOA, lawn care, gas. What about clothing? What about your hair?
Like I
pays
said,
for your hair?
everything that, costs anything, Trey handles it.
Okay, so he pays for the
Everything.
clothes you wear, the jewelry you have on, your nails, your
Yes,
makeup.
ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So, is there any outside income that you receive from anywhere?
I was in a movie, I get SAG residuals, which are very little, maybe $500 a year.
Do you agree with me that if Trey was not in your life, you would be working? Have to find someone else who would help you pay your bills?
I would be working, yes.
And I didn't mean that to be coy. I meant that sincerely. If you were not with him and he wasn't paying for everything, you would have to find a way to support your lifestyle.
Yes.
Isn't it true that you filed for unemployment even though you were at the tattoo shop helping out?
I don't recall when I did file, but I know when Brooks and I first separated, I had filed for unemployment and, SNAP benefits, yes.
So you said that Trey makes $300,000 a year. So, give me one moment. I got to do the math here. So, are you living a lifestyle that's about $15,000 a month?
I'm not, I don't know. I absolutely do not personally spend $15,000 a month, no.
Well, right, but I mean, combined between you, him, and whatever you spend money on.
I feel like we're pretty low maintenance. I'm not sure exactly how much we spend, but we don't live lavishly and we're not, spending a lot of money all the time.
Okay, so perhaps he's saving some money on the side, because if he's making $15,000 a month, he wouldn't spend every dime every single month.
Sure, yeah.
All right, so were you in the room during Madison's forensic interview? First time? So I should clarify this. So the first time you made the allegation in September of 2021, there was a report that they did a forensic interview of Madison. But they've done more than one, correct?
To my knowledge, there has been 2 so far.
Okay. Have you seen any, were you at the interview? Did you observe the interview?
I was not in the same room, I was in the same building.
You know what Madison reported in the first?
I know that they asked her general questions and she answered with her automatic responses that she's been programmed to say.
You're aware that the second interview, she stopped and said she forgot what you told her she should say, right?
Absolutely, which is ridiculous, being that I hadn't seen her in almost a month prior to this. So the fact that freshly on her brain, the first thing she's going to say is, "Mom makes me lie," should be a red flag that Mr. Johnson is forcing her to say that.
Well, I think what she said was, "I forgot what I was supposed to say."
I recall CPS saying that she said, "Mommy makes me lie."
Okay. You said she's highly intelligent and she's bright.
Yes.
So are you saying that she was lying then, but not the time before?
I'm saying that Madison has been under severe stress and abuse from Mr. Johnson, mentally, physically, sexually, and she has been programmed to say what he wants her to say. So prior to September, when she revealed the sexual abuse, she cried for 6 days every single day. Every day when she cried, I asked her why she was crying. She would say, "Nothing's wrong, Mommy, nothing's wrong, nothing's wrong." On the 6th day, she told me about the abuse. I don't believe that my child, who took 6 days to give this information to me, would go into a room with strangers and just produce this information, which is very, very, very hard for her to speak about.
Well, let's break this down, because
Yeah.
what I recall is that when you went to the week on, week off after the April hearing,
Mm-hmm.
Brooks, who has a full-time job during the day,
Mm-hmm.
had Madison at KinderCare
Mm-hmm.
during the day, and then on his weeks, during the weekdays, I should say, he had Madison in KinderCare,
Mm-hmm.
which is a licensed daycare and preschool.
Mm-hmm.
And then on your weeks, you had her primarily at the tattoo shop, right? 'Cause
Yes,
she's
ma'am.
not
I'm
school
very
age.
thankful I have the luxury of being able to raise my own child, and I can, give her all the attention that I need. And she does activities with me. She's very intelligent because of the effort I have put forth, and we are able to do whatever we please, and not many people have that ability, and I think that's everyone's goal as a mother.
Right, so you were with her on your weeks, and you chose what activities and what you were going to do, and because you spent a lot of time at the tattoo shop, she was there with you most of the time, and then when she was in Brooks's custody, while Brooks was at work, where he works at Spacecraft,
Mm-hmm.
Madison would go to KinderCare during the day. Then he would pick her up on his way home, and they would go home and everything. So wouldn't you assume that if Madison was being repeatedly sexually abused day in and day out, that she would have said something to somebody at a daycare or a preschool?
No, the amount of fear that's instilled in my child is astonishing. She is scared beyond belief. She's being threatened and she's being mentally abused so severely. She needs to be in therapy. And I'm hoping that we can find some type of therapist to get her going to, because she is a shell of a person. She is completely brainwashed. She's terrified. Terrified, to say the least.
So you're saying that she's suffering when she's with you, so she's disclosing everything that's going on that you're alleging against Brooks.
Mm-hmm.
But even though she spends during the week time with third parties who are taking care of her, and she's not willing to talk to people that she's with all day, every day at the other facility.
Yes, ma'am. To make it clear, she's not talking about this every day with me. But when she does talk about it, it's her way of life. So sometimes she's casual. Sometimes she says it, like if we're doing something and it relates to the sexual abuse, she will casually mention it. It's her way of life with her father. Everything is sexual. So it comes out in many different ways. I know that she is terrified to tell anyone else because she's fearful of what her father's going to do. And it's hard for me to give information and speak about the things that she and I have talked about in court because I know that Brooks is going to have severe repercussions for Madison.
Okay, well, you know that he has cameras in his house that are filming everything he does because of your allegation.
I know that he says that, and I know that nothing has been submitted to court.
I was in court saying that if I submit a video that goes on for 24 hours with nothing that happens, that how do you prove a negative?
I feel like it's not relevant to bring up the cameras if you're not going to submit the evidence.
Know that I put the cameras in the discovery, right?
I do not know.
Okay, but I mean, you agree with me that no one wants to pay their attorneys to sit for 24 hours and watch.
I don't know. I know Brooks is abusive. Madison on every single phone call is physically injured. She cries. To this date, Brooks has not followed your orders one time for my talking parents calls. I have no connection with my child. We do not get to have a true connection. He produces and directs every single call.
I thought that you just talked to her on Friday.
I did talk to her on Friday, and Mr. Johnson had busted her in the mouth prior to our phone call. Our phone call was only 4 minutes. Mr. Johnson hung up on me and then sent me a message that was so bizarre because like he's trying to, create this narrative. So he's holding the camera as usual. He's literally he's holding the camera and he says, "Madison, tell her what happened. Tell her what happened." Because he wants her to feed this false information. So she has no emotion on her face. She's like dead inside. And she just, is saying what he wants her to say. This is the same with every phone call. And then when I say, Brooks, you're such a good director. You're such a good cameraman or something along those lines. He hangs up on me and sends me a message saying that I'm harassing him, which I was in no way harassing him. He said I was harassing him in front of Madison and that, that was very inappropriate and he will not stand for it. And I'm like, in what universe is that harassment? My child is injured. I'm trying to have a connection with her. And what I've been doing since she's typically crying at the start of our calls, and I feel like the preparation for our phone call is very stressful for her because Mr. Johnson is so micromanaging every single thing. I've been trying to, what I do is I have her breathe. I tell her, breathe in, mommy loves you, breathe out, all the yuckies, all the bad days. And I have her take big breaths, we do breathing. And then that usually will calm her down so she'll stop crying or stop hiding or whatever it is. But I can't speak to her. I can't ask her questions. She can't tell me how her day is. Anytime she says anything verbally, she will look over to her father who will then, give her the go ahead whether or not she can say it. She can't speak to me. We have no communication. And I do want to say as well, Mr. Johnson is not conducive of a healthy relationship between Madison and myself. Out of all the phone calls we've had, I believe it was 7 times I've been allowed to say goodbye, good night, and I love you to Madison. Mr. Johnson abruptly hangs up the phone without any warning more than 3/4 of the time. More than 3/4 of the time, we'll be speaking, and then he randomly just hangs up. Madison needs to know I love her. She needs to feel, that I'm her mom, and the fact that I just get cut off on 3/4 of the phone calls, to me, it's very representative of Brooks's nature and how he does not want Madison to have a good relationship with me.
You realize that multiple professionals, third parties, do not find you to be a credible reporter of information.
You're on to object to the foundation.
Foundation, Ms. Cole?
I mean, we've gone over the records where it shows that you have not had any evidence to substantiate things that you've reported. And despite the evidence in front of you, you've refused to accept a different conclusion.
Because my child is begging for help. Alyssa Myers, she reported to the court that Madison was sexually abused. The judge had issued somebody to observe interaction between Madison and her father. That person reported back to the judge that Madison was exhibiting signs and behaviors of an abused child. That she
Who's that?
I'm
Who
sorry?
was that?
when there
Who are
was
you talking
when
about?
there was the observation, when the judge issued somebody to observe the interaction between Madison and her father. She
No,
reported back to the
they
judge.
didn't- No, they didn't
Yes,
report
they
that
did.
there was.
Yes, they did. They said that Madison goes limp when Brooks would touch her, when he would try to hug her. She was non-communicative. Mr. Johnson tried to, make the situation something that it wasn't by putting a table full of presents. So Madison for 1 hour opened presents, and still with those presents, Mr. Johnson was not able to show that he has a relationship that is healthy with his child. Madison
Okay,
is terrified.
you realize that was after 3 or 4 months of no contact when you were telling anyone who would listen that he was sexually abusing her.
Anyone
You
who-
don't think
you're
that
ridiculous.
had any effect on her? You don't think that affected her? To hear that
I think that the
from her
sexual
mother?
abuse has affected her. I think that the
I mean,
sexual
you took
abuse
a video
has affected her.
of yourself following her around, asking her about how badly she'd been abused by her father.
I'm not following
And she-
her around, and she was coming forth with this information, so I absolutely videotaped it. She was telling me in a nonchalant way because this is her daily way of life.
Okay, but you had CPS workers and agency, which is Metro, both say that your videos were inappropriate and they were coaching. Both of them.
That was their opinion. I feel
Independently.
like they're overworked and that they don't want to give me the time. I'm not sure why.
So you don't think they take crime seriously?
I think that the doctors at UMC, they diagnosed Madison with sexual assault. I think that Alyssa Myers, she wrote to the court that Madison's being sexually abused, and I think that those people are being ignored.
You're
cut off.
this case. You're
We
a
did-
party to this case.
We can't hear you, Miss Cole.
Oh. No?
People always say that. Can you hear me now? But
Can you? I mean, I'm talking.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
we heard
Okay,
that.
let me know if it happens again. I'm
Okay.
actually hardwired into my Wi-Fi, so
Okay.
out. Anyway, so clearly the Donna's House report said that she didn't show a lot of emotion, and it actually did say that once they did more talking and they looked at photos on the phone and they did some FaceTiming with family and Cody, that she relaxed and was smiling, right? So there was no allegation, conclusion in that report that Bruce was abusing her. at
To
the
my
visit.
knowledge, the conclusion was that Madison was exhibiting behaviors of an abused child. I may be wrong, but that was my my summary
Well,
of what happened. I'm not
You
sure
remember
exactly,
that
but that's what I believe.
Madison was asked if she gets disciplined by either of you, and the only person that she reported disciplines her is Trey.
Yep, and that should be
By spanking
a
her.
big red flag that Brooks is making her lie, because the fact that he doesn't discipline her is ridiculous.
Physically disciplined.
Yeah, for sure.
She reported that you do not physically discipline
Yeah.
her, and that Brooks does not physically discipline
Uh-huh.
her, but Trey does.
Yeah.
And you're saying that means that she's lying.
I'm
Because of
saying
something Brooks
that
did?
she's being honest, saying that Trey will sometimes spank her on her bottom, but I think that the fact that she did not reveal that Brooks disciplines her physically is a big sign that she's holding everything in that this person does to her.
You have no evidence of that.
My daughter's my evidence. My daughter is telling me this is happening. I'm a mom. I can only believe my child. My child's telling me this. I can't just roll over and ignore it. I will not ignore this.
Okay, and you reported that Brooks is living in his car, and even Madison told the forensic interviewer that he has his own place and does not ever live in his car.
Yes, ma'am. Like I said, Madison is not going to reveal these lies to people that it took her 6 days to tell me. I'm sorry.
You remember why you lost custody of Madison?
I don't remember exactly. I know that in my mind, the last thing that happened, Madison went to UMC. She was diagnosed with sexual assault. Chelsea wrote a letter to the judge stating incorrect information. And I believe based on that incorrect information of her saying based on Madison being in my care for 1 week prior to the UMC visit, that made their diagnosis inconclusive. I believe her incorrect information caused the judge to issue a pickup order, and Madison was taken from me, and I have not seen her. I've seen Madison 7 times since January 18th.
Okay,
7 times. My daughter needs me.
Okay, you realize the reason why you lost custody is because you tested positive for methamphetamine, ecstasy, and THC, and it showed chronic use of drugs.
No.
And then you were positive in your patch test after that. And that's why you got issued the order that Madison was removed from your custody. Do you remember that?
Yes, ma'am. I remember being tested at Options, and I remember going to another testing facility and being tested negative. You pushed very hard for me to go to Options, and for some reason, they have contradicting tests to the other testing facility, ATI.
Okay, Options staff was here all day, a day of trial, explaining how they do their testing, 3 ways they test.
Mm-hmm.
But my point is that you responded when I asked you why you lost custody. You said it was because someone lied in a CPS report, but that's not why, right?
That's my opinion of it. Yes, I don't believe that the drug test. I'm sorry.
Your opinion is that you lost custody because of something that was said in a CPS report.
I believe that if Chelsea did not give that incorrect information, that things would be different. Yes.
Okay, but are you acknowledging that you lost custody because of your positive hair and patch tests?
I am not a drug user, Miss Cole.
I'm not asking you that question. I asked you if you are aware and can acknowledge that you lost custody because of your positive drug tests.
If that was the main factor in it, then I guess I agree with that, but...
Okay, so you're here today, you're turned straight to the judge, and you confronted her, haven't seen your daughter, yet you quit the drug testing program and haven't been back, and you're not in a drug testing program right now, even though you know that that's why you lost custody, right?
I have been testing at ATI still, and I believe that I'm not sure what's going on with Options, but you did pay her, $250 to come give her testimony, which seemed to be very skewed in Mr. Johnson's direction.
Hey, I'm sorry, it wasn't skewed. She was reporting what the drug tests say.
Right.
And she doesn't just charge me. Anytime she's subpoenaed, as she testified, that is her fee.
Right.
All she said. Okay? But you know why you lost custody. You know it was because of your positive drug tests. Yet, if you're not using drugs, you haven't gotten into a regular program and shown the court that you're clean from all substances for extended periods of time.
Like I said, I'm testing weekly at ATI.
Okay, and you mean a test where you go in and submit urine?
Urine and hair, yes, ma'am.
Okay, so how many times have you dyed your hair? It started.
I don't know. I dye my hair off and on. I'm not sure of the exact amount of times.
Okay, and know that urine only goes back sometimes less than 12 hours when you're using methamphetamine.
Like I said, I'm not a drug user, Miss Cole. I don't use methamphetamine. I'm sorry that you guys are trying to push this narrative, but I am not a drug user.
Can we move on, Ms.
Yes.
Cole? I don't think you're going to get her to agree with you. And we've been over this.
Okay, well, I have one last question. You haven't submitted any of these tests in evidence, have you?
I don't know.
That's not true. We have the ATI witness and we did submit.
I'm not talking about that. She said that she is currently testing every single week, multiple times a week, on a drug testing program.
Not a drug testing program. No, I go in when I want and I get tested.
Okay, so you go in when you want, and you've submitted one test. You also know that the court requires you to do a psychological evaluation back in January, but you didn't do that either.
It's been very difficult for us to find somebody to get the psychological evaluation. I'm very sane of mind. I am gladly going to get psychologically evaluated. I wish that Mr. Johnson would as well, because I believe that he has severe mental issues.
Well, didn't I say that he could be so long as you paid for it?
I can't pay for his evaluation.
Okay, well there you go.
Yeah.
Said your boyfriend makes $300,000 a year and you live don't live an extravagant lifestyle. How can you not afford to pay for get a psych eval?
I don't know, Miss Cole.
Right. So I'm on 625 exhibit. Page
Ms.
16.
Cole, you previously offered into evidence Exhibit E, and there was an objection as to, I didn't see it, but all of the photos that I believe were after bait number 22 and 23, and then it was dropped. So you were starting to lay a foundation for those. Where are we at on offering those into evidence? Are you dropping
She said
it?
she wasn't there. She wasn't there. So the only person that was there was my client, and I can't authenticate a situation where she wasn't present. So there's no way for me to offer that right now.
Okay, all right.
So I dropped it.
Okay.
Had she seen the incident, I would have tried to admit it, but it was the one that took the photo, so I was just going to reserve that. Okay, so page 625. So it looks like on October 13th, after the case in CPS and Metro were closed, it says here you called the worker, Gwendolyn White, upset that the department wasn't doing enough and yelled at the specialist and said she wasn't taking her job seriously, wanted her supervisor's information, and then hung up. Sorry.
I believe Miss White mishandled the case from the beginning. Being that she refused to meet with me in person. And then she wrote this whole, theory based upon what Brooks had told her. And everything was negative against me. And she did not even meet with me in person.
You also accused her of not watching your videos, and she told you that she, in fact, did watch the videos.
Yes, ma'am, I did.
And then you never responded back to her.
No, that's not true. We had many correspondences via text message, and as I said, as I was getting more information from Madison, I was giving it to the appropriate people.
All right, and then on 626, page 626.
I'm sorry, are we on which not the
October?
Sorry, I'm on the wrong book.
Yeah, Exhibit B of the CPS records, number 626.
Okay.
Says that Gwendolyn White received an email from Metro from Detective Highsmith advising that you sent the videos to her. Detective Highsmith advised what she saw is terrible. Jessica discredits Madison's disclosure. She's asking for an in-person meeting with Jessica, but Jessica never responded to her. And that was the detective asking you.
That's silly. I have email chains of me begging Miss Highsmith for a meeting. And she continually tells me that she will be meeting with me and then never does. I was emailing her nonstop begging for her to see me. And she kept saying that she was going to see me and then she would cancel her meeting. This is incorrect information and it's ridiculous. And I have proof.
So there's a conspiracy with everyone involved in every case investigating your allegations, and they're against you in some way. Is this something that...
is your choice of words, not mine. I believe
I'm
that
asking.
this is wrong because, like I said, I have email chains that show that Miss Highsmith has told me over and over again repeatedly she was going to meet with me, and she cancels every time. I would never, ever, ever refuse to meet with her because this is my daughter's life at stake. It's very important.
All right. Again, on 627, they talk about your allegations, and they interviewed Madison that she denied seeing violence as related to her father. So you're saying that Madison was lying to the workers about being violent.
Absolutely.
Okay, so kind of on the same theme that you were talking about, where you would never have denied meeting with the workers or seeing the workers, it says that on page 633, that on November 16th, that Chloe Smith went to your home unannounced. There were multiple vehicles in the driveway. She rang the doorbell, knocked on the front door, and no answer.
Is that a question?
Ever meet with the workers in your home?
Absolutely.
Okay, who did you meet with?
Chloe, and
Okay.
I met with another female. I can't recall her name. And I do want to add that we have multiple vehicles and a roommate, so there are going to be cars there. I have been very open and very welcoming to CPS, as I know that they are my only source line to help my child who was a victim of sexual abuse.
All right. Who's your roommate?
Trey has a roommate that has been living with him for quite some time.
Who's the roommate?
His name is Gene.
What does he do?
I don't know. He lives
You don't know?
downstairs. We're upstairs. I don't really talk to him at all.
What is his last name?
Gene. I want to say it's. I don't want to give the wrong name. I think it's Varntero or something. I'm not sure of the exact name. I can get that information and give it to Richard, and he could submit it to you.
Can you say what you said that you thought it was again?
Gene Salvatore, maybe? Gene Salvatore.
How does Trey know Gene?
When Trey first opened his shop 25 years ago, right before that time, he was actually living with Gene. Gene is an older gentleman. He has grandchildren, and Trey and him have a very good relationship, and he needed a place to live. So since Trey used to live with him years ago, he allowed Gene to move in with him. And I think he's been living there for, I want to say, maybe 7 to 10 years.
And you don't know if he has a job?
I'm not sure if he has a job. I'm not sure. I have no idea. He's older. He might be retired. I can't say for sure.
All right, so we're all the way up now to December 28th when you had court, after you had withheld Madison from Brooks. And we went to court and the judge reinstated week on, week off. Do you remember that?
Yes.
All right, so there's a report, and I'm on page 644, where Chloe Smith came to see you and spoke to you about the court hearing. It was the same day as the court hearing. You told her that the judge reinstated joint custody, and that Brooks is making it seem like you're making everything up, and that you now have to complete a drug test, that you informed the worker that you've taken 3 tests already in the last 3 months, all of which were negative. So, where did you take these 3 tests in the last 3 months, all of which were negative? Because you've never submitted those.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Ms. Cole.
I was saying because you've never submitted those to anyone.
I believe they were submitted to court, yes.
Okay, well, if I told you they weren't, why don't you tell me a little bit more about them?
I have had multiple drug tests, many handfuls of tests that have been submitted to court. There must have been, upwards of close to 10, maybe more. They were all
Right,
submitted.
Right, but when we went to court on December 28th,
Yes.
that was after you had no-showed to 2 court-ordered drug tests, and you didn't have any drug tests in the record.
That's not true.
Okay, so you're telling us that in the court record, you had submitted drug tests?
Yes, ma'am. We have gone over this with the judge, and we actually went over the dates with Richard during one of our hearings that we have had in the past.
Oh, when he submitted the ATI test? Your attorney submitted the ATI test? Urine test?
I guess so. I'm not sure exactly what was submitted. I just know I've taken a lot of tests. I know that we have gone over this in court.
Okay.
I've taken a lot, and Chloe actually drug tested me and Trey as well.
Okay. That's not in the reports, by the way.
Yes, it is.
Where is it?
That I saw. I've never seen that, but...
I'll find it.
Okay.
So, for 650, we have the Nevada Initial Assessment, which is the conclusion of every investigation has a Nevada Initial Assessment when they conclude. Says here that the allegation against Brooks on September 26th resulted as unsubstantiated.
Where does it say that, Ms. Cole?
Oh, on 650 in the top of the middle section says assessment area 1 maltreatment. Maltreatment was not found unsubstantiated, and there's an X next to it,
Okay, thank you.
bracket. So, all right. So now you went back to on the 28th. You went back to week on, week off. Brooks got COVID. Then you got Madison back. That was the first time you got Madison back after the court hearing, and you took her straight to UMC for the SANE exam, and then withheld her from her visit for the rest of the time until the pickup order, right?
Yes, ma'am. Brooks would not let me have any communication during those 2 weeks that he had her, and I do not believe he had COVID. He was supposed to go to the hospital and get tested, and he did not go to the hospital and get tested. I believe he was just withholding her because he felt like doing that. I do not believe he had COVID.
I thought he
Well,
produced. I thought he produced
no.
a test.
He
Yes.
produced a photo of an at-home test, which can be altered, and I don't think that it's a firm, diagnosis of COVID. That is his own test that he could have just penciled on or markered on, or he could have got the picture off the internet. He was supposed to, Richard and Lorian had spoke about him going to a hospital to get tested, and he did not want to go. He missed the appointment.
Okay.
Twice, I believe.
Speaking of no contact, when you withheld Madison from September, December, you didn't even allow Brooks a phone call, did you?
No, ma'am.
Okay, so you're here complaining, saying that he didn't let you talk to Madison for a week?
Yes, ma'am. 2 weeks.
Okay, yet you went 4 months without letting him call his daughter?
He's sexually abusing Madison. I am not.
You think it's acceptable when no one else has corroborated your allegation that it withhold all contact in violation of a court order and not even allow him a phone call?
It's not a game of you did this, so I'm going to do it.
I'm just asking you. I'm just asking you.
What was the question?
I said 4 months, you didn't even allow him a phone call.
I did not.
Okay, and you think that's okay?
I believe as a mother, I was doing and am doing what's best for my child. I always have her best intentions in my mind.
Okay, so in your opinion, her best interest is to have zero contact with her father.
Someone who is a pedophile and sexually abusing her, absolutely. She did not want to speak to him. And even when she did speak to him prior to that, their conversations are nothing. They have nothing to talk about. She doesn't want to talk to him. I've never heard Madison say one story about her dad good. She never says anything that they do. She never talks about her time with him because she's not having a good time. And the fact that he's not allowing communication, I feel like, is just him being spiteful, because Madison needs to have a relationship with me.
What, I don't understand what you're talking about. You talked to Maddie 3 times already this week.
What do you mean I talked to Maddie 3 times this week? And that's what's funny, is that Brooks has, created, he's so ridiculous. So on Friday when I talked to Madison, she was physically injured and crying. Mr. Johnson I believe he abused her, and that's why her lip was busted, and that's the 4th time that on record, and I have documented all of this, and I actually broke down every single call. That's the 4th time Madison had a busted lip at the beginning of our call. Mr. Johnson hung up the phone on me, and then ended our call early. On Sunday, it was Mother's Day. He allowed Madison to not video call me. She called me, and I had, a 45-second phone call with her, okay? On Monday, Mr. Johnson canceled our video call, okay, because they were at dinner. And then he allowed her to call me last night. Last night, her phone call with me, I'm not connecting with her. I'm not having a relationship with her. I'm merely just observing the scene that Mr. Johnson is wanting me to observe. Madison is a shell of a person.
Okay, but you're saying that you talked to her, though. Right?
I see her, yes. She's not talking to me, but I do see her on camera. And Mr. Johnson did not follow the orders on Friday. Monday, he canceled as well.
Yeah, I just want to make that clear, that because what you're telling the court, and I know the court's concerned about this, so this isn't. You're making the representation that Madison doesn't get to talk to you.
She does not.
But in fact, you are talking to her. You just don't like the quality of the interaction.
No. So he has canceled 7 of our video calls. 7 he has canceled. Okay? And like I said, I have been able to say goodbye to Madison for less than 1/3 of the times. Every single call, Mr. Johnson can be heard and seen in every single call. He's verbally, audibly giving her directions in every single phone call. Any person that watches these videos, it's so apparent that Madison is distraught, distressed, and in desperate need of help, and Mr. Johnson is micromanaging every single thing that she does. He directs everything.
How come I haven't seen these videos
I want
when
you to
this
see
has
them
been
so
brought
badly.
up so many times?
I plan on presenting videos in my redirection on it.
Okay, thank you.
That multiple and repeated calls to authorities on a parent that are found to be unsubstantiated.
You were cutting in and out. Ms. Cole, can you start over?
Yeah, I said, did you know that continual calls to authorities that end up being unsubstantiated or determined to not have any validity grounds for you to be sanctioned by the court, actually put in jail, attempt of behavior and anti-alienation?
Ms. Cole, Ms. Cole, I'm sorry, you're cutting out.
Oh. Is that the first time today, or has that been going on?
Well, we've been telling you when you've been cutting out.
Oh, okay. I want to make sure it wasn't.
But make sure your question isn't compound, because it kind of sounded like it was going that way.
Okay. Know that you're under a behavior order.
Yes.
Not disparage Brooks. and you've open and notorious disparagement of Brooks, calling him a pedophile, yelling at the drug testing facility about how he's a pedophile, calling in allegations